Let's talk about Milo, because I feel differently about Milo. You wrote a really interesting Facebook post. You know Milo, you like him. I've had one lengthy conversation with him, and I have a lot of sympathy with him because I know what artists are like. I know that artists are damaged people. They're a little crazy. He's been through a lot of stuff. But I have problems with Milo that go back over everything that he's done. Tell people what your take on this is.
I think of Milo the same way that I think about Trump, and I think about George Carlin once said something where he said, and I'm going to paraphrase him here, but these are his words. These are not my words, so I don't want anybody to think these are my words.
Okay.
But he was talking about language, and he was talking about how it's not the word, it's the person who uses the word. And he said, and this is the quote, he said, the reason Richard Pryor can say the word nigger is because Richard Pryor's a nigger, unquote. Now, you could take that quote and you could put it in a headline and it could say, George Carlin called Richard Pryor the N-word.
Right.
And that's a fact. But what was he doing there? Why was he saying that? George Carlin's no racist.
Right.
Why was he saying that? He was making a bigger point about that sometimes you have to use words, sometimes you have to keep these words alive. Because if you don't, that thing we keep talking about, that graph, it keeps moving this way and this way and this way and this way. And it was one of the rare times that Carlin was actually attacking the left. And that's when I hear Milo say these incredible things that I would never say and do things that I would never do, I see what he's doing. He's a provocateur. He's saying the left can say anything. The left can say anything. They can trash women. They can trash blacks. They can trash gays if they're conservative. There's nothing the left can't say. And what Milo is saying is that I'm going to go way over here and maybe we can get to here. And he's protecting free speech. Now, he does it in ways that I don't think is okay. He does things I would never do. I'm a bit of a provocateur myself. Mm-hmm. But you need people like that. We need people like that. This is a very repressive society we live in. The former First Lady just a couple of years ago told us we couldn't use the word bossy. We can't call things that are dumb gay anymore. You can't, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I think in that respect, Milo is people like Milo and Milo and people like him are extremely important to our society. They are the canaries in the coal mine of free speech.
You know, it's funny. My friend Owen Brennan of Madison McQueen, who is an excellent communicator and basically makes political videos with Hollywood style, he says that artists, the street artists, the guys who put up posters and signs, they establish the boundaries of what's acceptable to say. And one of my problems with Milo is he's essentially a performance artist, and as a performance artist, he has every right to be outrageous and crazy and terrible, but he seems to have this desire to be a sort of political sage, and when you accept a speaking post at CPAC, it seems to me that you are saying, oh, yes, I am now a member of respectable society. And the thing about artists, I am an artist, I know this, we don't belong in respectable society. You shouldn't invite me anywhere. That to me is the problem. He's trying to cross that line, I think, out of personal ambition. And that's one of my problems. The other problem I have with him is he forgives and gives cover to genuinely cruel and obscene acts, like some of the things that have been tweeted at Ben, some of the things that have been tweeted at David French over at NRO, stuff that it's not okay. It's not okay to put a picture of a guy's kid in a gas chamber, and when Milo says, oh, they're just being kind of cute, rebellious young people, that really bugs me. It bugs me a lot more than anything he had to say about little kids, because he's obviously so messed up on sexually that, who knows what he's saying. But that bugs me.
The one thing I don't think Milo, and I don't disagree with him. Again, there's a lot of things he's done that I wouldn't do, and a lot of them are to Ben, our friend. But I think one of the things that Milo doesn't get enough credit for is that he is gay and Jewish, and he is just as hard on gays and Jews as he is on anyone else, and he's often criticized for that. And I think the complete opposite is true. I think what you have is a guy who doesn't find himself, or at least his identity, superior, because he's willing to attack and savage himself when he calls himself a faggot. He says it all the time. I never use that word. and then I think that's something that he deserves credit for. But one thing I said in the piece is that if we are living in a society where we are not shocked and insulted and offended, we are not living in a free society. And and you need guys like Milo out there, and you especially need guys like Milo out there on the right. And yes, they are outrageous, and sometimes they go much further than I would. I don't know what too far is in a free society. It's very hard to offend me. I'm a conservative Christian on Twitter, so it's very hard to offend me. I've been hit with everything. I live in a culture that besieges me with insults and questioning my humanity, and I've been living in that culture my entire life. Violence offends me. Promoting violence offends me. It's very hard to get me offended about words and pictures and things like that. It's violence that I worry about, especially political violence. Yeah. So I have a little more tolerance than I think some other people do. But overall, I want to live in a society where I am offended, where I am shocked, and where I'm insulted, because that means I'm living in a free society.
I'm with you 100% on this. I can't remember the last time somebody said something that shocked me. As you say, violence, cruelty shocks me.
Right.
However, if I go to a dinner at CPAC, if I go to a dinner at the Heritage Foundation, and this guy who does those things stands up and talks, unless he is talking about his art form and why he does what he does, that sort of disturbs me. It disturbs me because it means that Overton window that you're saying may have shifted a little too far and taken us with it. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think Milo has made some real errors. I have a lot of respect for his talent. I think he is a talented performance artist. I think that he is doing something.
Listen, I agree. He reminds me a lot of Andrew Breitbart, but Andrew Breitbart didn't have that mean streak.
Yeah, that's it.
There's a mean streak in Milo.
Yeah. Andrew Breitbart didn't have a bigoted bone in his body, and I think that I worry about this with Milo.
Yeah, and again, I don't. And that's another thing I was going to say about Richard Pryor and what George Carlin said about Richard Pryor. Just because George Carlin said that, it doesn't mean he's a racist.
Right.
And I'm not sure I'm prepared to ascribe that motive to Milo, because I think it's the same thing that George Carlin did, where Milo is using words and he's saying things for a larger purpose, for the larger purpose of moving the Overton window, which does need to be moved. And so I'm not ready to ascribe that motive to him. Because in my personal dealings with him, I've never seen anything like that. And like I said, he is as hard on his own identity as he is on anybody else's, if not harder.
Okay. All right.